Hello, everyone. This is Mike. This is my brother Mark. We're continuing our talk on the different tribes. We talked about tribe of Reuben, which is an interesting tribe to talk about. We're going to talk about another very interesting tribe, and the second born was Simeon or Shimon. And actually, also where you get the name Simon from. They're all the similar derivative. Something to know about. I just wanted to. And it means the Lord has heard. And so we're going to go to Genesis chapter 29, verse 33. That's the birth of Simeon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. She called his name Simeon. All right, so there you go. That's how you get the meaning. The Lord has heard from his name. And that's an interesting aspect, that his name would be that. But we want to go into a bit about Simeon's character. And Simeon was a very warlike brother. I'd say he was probably the most warlike brother of all of them, with the exception of probably Levi. Levi was quite warlike as well, but in a different way. Simeon they were more like soldiers. They like to do soldiering as like a way of making money and living. But whereas the tribe of Levi became the priests, and they were more, could we say, fanatical, and that would cause them to, become soldiers and fight for a cause. So they had the tribe of Levi had more of a fanatical nature, more of an introspective, spiritual nature. And Simeon did not have these things. I'm thinking like Levi, they were much less spiritual minded, more military minded and protectionist minded, and justice and that kind of idea. And they were less spiritual, and we could see that. And they were okay with mixing with other peoples, like with the Midianitish woman. It was a guy named Zimri in the book of Numbers, having this situation, and that was not good. That's one aspect of the tribe of Simeon that we're going to discuss. And one other aspect of the tribe of Simeon was, he started out as a fairly sizable tribe, and very quickly, the tribe lost a lot of numbers and a lot of influence. Their influence became less and less, to the point where they're almost completely 100% absorbed into Judah and the other tribes of Israel. And it's said they would be scattered. So they were scattered amongst all the different tribes. And they were basically, fundamentally, completely absorbed, even to the point where in Deuteronomy 33, there's not even a blessing given. They're not even mentioned in Moses's blessings to the different tribes, which I found very interesting. And their numbers went from, like I said, fairly sizable numbers to, having a smaller tribal numbers very quickly. So that's important to note. And so we want to talk about his blessings and why he gets the symbols of the sword and the castle. So that the signs and the heraldry for the tribe of Simeon is the sword, a guy holding a sword, or just the sword, or a castle. And so those are the signs of the tribe of Simeon. And we'll see why in a little bit here. We're going to take it up in Genesis chapter 34, verse 22. Genesis chapter 34, 22. This is a story with their sister Dinah. They were quite upset that the Shechemites had taken their sister and that he took him as his wife. And they were quite upset with that because they were not of the tribes of Israel, and they didn't like that. And so they executed vengeance upon the Shechemites by slaying all their men and taking all their sheep and everything that they owned. And so this was quite a act of war and violence and vengeance that quite upset Jacob, their father. And that's why we see later on in Genesis 49 the prophecies and the blessings that would happen for the tribe of Simeon. It was revealed later. And we'll see that from Genesis chapter 34. And we'll take it up in verse 22.
Yeah, so here they were enacting a plan to get revenge. This is how they did it. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every man among us be circumcised, as though they are circumcised. So they got them to agree to be circumcised. And of course, because they were all circumcised, they were in a position of weakness. So what did they do? Well, it says in verse 25, it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, the two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, and his brethren, took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. So they went in and killed them all. And we'll read in 27, to what extent was this done? The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city because they had defiled their sister. And they took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city and which was in the field, and all their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have troubled me to make me stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I be few in number. And they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? So this is the idea about the Levites being fanatical and spiritual and indignant. So for Levi, it was this indignance that they were with his sister. But for Levi, it was revenge because he was for Simeon. It was revenge because he was with the sister. So, but they both did this together, and this explains what is going to be said about them in Genesis chapter 49.
Yeah, so we'll go to Genesis 49, and before I do, now we see Shechem was a walled city, so this is where they get the idea of the castle. Shechem is a walled city, and they have so that's where you get the castle. Because it said they stormed them with boldness. So that's where they get the castle symbol for Simeon, and then we have the sword symbol because it said they took their sword and they slew all those men. So that's where you get the sword and the castle heraldry. And then we're going to go to now what Jacob said would befall the tribe of Simeon and Levi. And so, when we're talking about the tribe of Simeon, a lot of times we have to include Levi in it because he was part of that deed that was done. So their blessings and their judgments are similar in nature.
Yeah, this is the reason why I had to mention Levi a little bit in this talk. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. This is verse 5, Genesis 49. O my soul, come not thou unto their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor. Be not thou united, for in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a well. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel.
So there you go. So it wasn't good. There was nothing positive actually given to Simeon and Levi. Levi has some positive given later in Deuteronomy chapter 33 because Moses had and Aaron. Aaron became the first high priest. So there's a more positive nature to Levi later. But at this point, they're talking about the negative things. And Jacob did not have anything positive given here to say for them. So it said they were fierce and cruel, and he said, I will divide them in Judah, or Jacob, and I will scatter them in Israel. So this is saying that they would be scattered all the way throughout Israel, not just in the land of Judah, which the tribe of Simeon's land was completely surrounded by. It wasn't just going to be Judah, but it was also they were going to be scattered amongst the other tribes of Israel. And the reason why is because I was saying they were fighting men. They like to fight with, and we can see that in Judges chapter 1. And it's saying that when Judah went up to battle to get their land and the things that they wanted to partake or get, they brought the tribe of Simeon with them. They brought the tribe of Simeon with them. So I want to go there for a second, for a little short time here. And Judges chapter 1. Judges chapter 1. This is just briefly saying that it shows that Simeon, the tribe of Simeon, they like to be hired soldiers. They didn't mind soldiering for a living. And that was one of the things that they did. And so they helped their brother Judah go up. So, it's kind of taking me some time to find the scripture here. Okay, let's see we gotta find it here. Okay, verse 3, Judges 1 verse 3 says here, and Judah said unto Simeon his brother, come up with me into my lot, that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I likewise will go with thee into your lot, or thy lot. So Simeon went with him. And Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand, and they slew of them in Bezek 10,000 men. So there you go. That clearly shows you what Simeon was quite about. And that explains why they were scattered all through Israel, and they were being absorbed into Israel because their land was completely surrounded by Judah. And, it was it wasn't a large parcel of land that they were given, and they were quite warlike, and that's why their sign is the sword. And so that's where I'm going to leave it for most of the scriptures concerning the tribe of Simeon. And I'm going to talk about a little about where the tribe of Simeon ended up, and they were scattered. So obviously this tribe of Simeon's like all over the world, and different places. And the only way to find where the tribe of Simeon was to look at their tribal names and also their signs, their heraldic signs, which was the sword and the castle. And one of the largest factions of the tribe of Simeon was in the British Isles. A lot of the Scotland, a lot of the ancient Scotsmen were from the tribe of Simeon. They have that castle symbol and the sword symbol. The Solares of Wales and northwestern France. There was a portion of northwestern France that was from the tribe of Simeon. We have parts of Ireland and sections in Germany, Sweden, Bulgaria, Greece, and the Lombards of northern Italy were descendants of the tribe of Simeon. So there was a lot, and a lot of people are saying also there's been a claim or thought that the tribe of Simeon were also the Trojans in the Trojan War. And so they were warriors. All these different countries, like a Scotsman and the Welsh, were known to be good warriors, and Irish too, to some degree, and the Germans and the Swedes and the Greeks. They're all very warlike people, and the Lombards of northern Italy were very good at soldiering. And so you can see where the tribe of Simeon was and who they were. And that's one thing that's very clear. And one I just found out was actually some parts of Finland even, Suomi. And you look at different names of the different tribes. I'll show you that where they came from. There's another son named Jakin. And one of these ones is descendants were called the Iceni in Britain. And that was where the Queen Boudica, she was of that tribe. And they were a warlike tribe of Britons. And they were descendants of Yakin or Jekin, or Yakin as in the Hebrew, which was the son of Simeon. And as I had quickly gone over, Zimri was a son of Simeon, and that was where he had taken a Midianite woman. And so that shows another aspect of the Simeonite behavior. But I think that's pretty much covers most of what I was going to say about the tribe of Simeon. So,
just before we go, as we read in Judges, that continued to happen all through history, because these groups that he just mentioned were involved in many battles and armed conflicts with other tribes of Israel. And they were instrumental, even with battles between tribes of Israel, between themselves and with their enemies. We can see the tribe of Simeon here, involved through history in this way. So that continued up to recent times. Because even the Scottish even served, so there have been Simeonites were even serving in World War II. There were Scottish groups. There were other groups that were probably from the tribe of Simeon. They served in all these different wars and conflicts through the years. Just like to let people know that.
And one last thing I would add again is it said that Simeon and Levi were brethren. And so, it talks, you can see there was a closeness with Judah. So a lot of tribe of Simeon was absorbed into Judah. So a lot of where you find the Simeonites today would be along amongst the Jews, which is well known. And also with the tribal Levi. There's a substantial amount of tribal Levi in Wales and in very similar countries, right beside the tribe of Simeon. They were brothers. And so they were in the same areas with each other, and they followed each other to the same places where they ended up. So I'll leave the talk there. God bless everyone. We'll continue and talk about the tribe of Levi next. All right. Take care, everyone.
God bless.